Adam, you've owned a staffing company. We've talked about that. Larry, you've never owned a staffing company. Now, if you were, and let's say you're going to open a staffing company today, what would you specialize in and where would you locate that staffing company, knowing what you know?
Great
Oh,
questions.
I mean, those are great questions, but I don't know if I'm going to give you strategic answers that would make sense to some of the audience because I'm a California boy and I love California. California is a world of its own, and it's probably not the greatest place. I think I would recommend anybody to start a company, but I would most likely try to figure out how to make it work somewhere in Cali.
What would you specialize in? I'm going to staff what? Just anybody and everybody who wants to be staffed or a particular.
I think I would probably be some type of general staffing company that's doing maybe light industrial, different types of labor jobs. I don't know. I've never really thought about owning a staffing company, so I may have to put a little bit more thought into that. Maybe I'd do something really super specialized. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Now, Adam, you've owned one before. If you had to go back and do it again, would you say, I'm going to do the same thing? Or would you say, no way, construction, done it once?
No, you know what? Construction is my first love, and it'll probably be my last love before I breathe my last breath. I love to see product developed. I love to see progress, and construction is like a pretty, straightforward way to see a project go from planning stage to completion. And that is something that I love to see visually. So
Yeah.
construction would be it. But if I was just to be selfish, I just told you I'm 45 now, so I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Um, I'm like, man, get me on a golf course. Like, if they need staffing on a golf course in South Carolina or the Georgia coast,
Sign you up.
where I'm doing PGA events and it's Thursday through Sunday in sunny weather,
That sounds like a sweet gig.
sign me up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not logistics money, but hey, I'd be living the dream.
You would be. Now, you just talked about strategy. You are overseeing or you're helping drive a new business in a box offering. Talk to me about that from inception to where we are now in the offering at Meritus.
Sure. I mean, the amazing thing about staffing is how quickly you can scale a business from the day you open until, the day you sign your first client and you're starting to generate revenue and you're starting to collect. That can happen very rapidly, which is pretty incredible. And it opens up an opportunity though for, you know, companies to be searching for, am I scaling my business the right way? Is it going to be sustainable? And so for us to be able to say, look, we have tried and true methods. We've learned from past mistakes. We've learned from experience. We've learned through mutual contacts and connections what vendors fit together really well,
Right.
where there's synergy. And we put those vendors together in a box, nice gift wrapped. Staffing company owners, you have an opportunity to go out and get contracts.
Right.
Here's everything you need from A to Z to be successful. Nothing you don't need, but everything you do need.
I've heard multiple times people say staffing is a people business, but they talk about the tech stack like it's a gold rush. Those two things seem to be different things. Which to you in 2025, even though AI is tech, like what of those things is more important to a staffing business right now? Right people or the right tech?
So I will always err on the side of the right people. Uh, I just think technology is yes, it's ever evolving, but it's also cyclical. Something that works and is the trigger word 1 year kind of fades out and didn't have as much of an impact as you thought the next year.
Yeah.
People and personal relationships, knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to motivate people, that will never go out of style.
Yeah.
And it'll never be outdated. I will say where tech is becoming increasingly more important is around compliance. Um, each state in this country is different, but each state has its own set of regulations.
Mhm.
Because you mentioned that it's a serious business. You are dealing with people's lives, and we can never lose sight of that. This is somebody's livelihood. It's maybe their first job. Maybe it's their first promotion. Maybe it's their first exposure to an industry that is now going to be their career for the rest of their life, and they have families to feed. And um, I've never lost sight of that. So, an employee working for a temporary staffing firm, it's not just a number. And sometimes I think when too much technology is in play, you run the risk of making that person into a dollar figure or into a number or into a slot in the machine, um, where there's real families, real people behind that person. Um, and so, with that being said, with compliance, there's all these new regulations, especially in the litigious state of California. They love making new rules. So, in other words, in the olden days, 2 years ago, back in the olden days, in the old West, you used to when you'd go to work, you'd punch in, punch out on a time clock. And oh, I forgot. It's time for me to take my break. I better go take my break, and I'm gonna eat my sandwich, and then I'm gonna go clock back in. Those days are over because what the state has done is say, no, you need these very specific breaks throughout the course of the day. If you work 1 minute over, that needs to be assigned to a formula that calculates overtime. There's no more rounding up or rounding down. It is so precise now. So otherwise, you could be facing fines, you could be facing penalties, you could be facing class action lawsuits. It's a very real thing. So technology has come into play to say, look, we will build a technology piece to make sure that you are compliant with these new regulations. That's where I think technology is so valuable. It's brilliant. But when it comes to human interaction, machines, leave that to us, okay?
Yeah.
And I echo what Adam's talking about as far as the human touch, because it's always going to be needed. It'll never be outdated. However, technology is coming at a clip, and it's exponentially expanding. AI, tech stacks, automation tools that are getting more and more intelligent, more intuitive. Those are things that, if you're not looking at those technological advancements and asking yourself, what are the implications that could have for my business without losing the human touch? I just think they're both equally important. And the good news is that there's lots of players in this space that have lots of the same types of tools and tech stacks and automation tools and compliance tools. So you can just find out who is the face behind that particular product, and are they my people, right? So because behind every tech stack is a human person. So it's a matter of finding the right person that has the tech stack that you're looking for, that there's synergy and you can feel a good vibe. And now you found your tribe.
Yeah, that's who you're going to want to work with, man.
100%.
I started in the insurance world as far as my service side of staffing. In insurance, there's all these question marks about how do you price a policy, especially for a staffing company, because a staffing company has a high volume of labor. That is your product, is qualified applicants, qualified people. Um, and so there's a lot of variables there. Uh, Not everyone's has the same strengths. Not everyone has the same capabilities of transportation. So there's all these different risk factors that you have to consider before you place that person on a specific job site. We have these actuaries in the business that they try their best. So insurance inherently is risk.
Yep.
Without risk, there's no need for insurance. So the reason insurance exists is because it is risk. And so there's been all this, time, resources developed to try to predict.
Yep.
These analytics tools, how to predict where there's going to be injuries, what the actual cost of a claim is going to be, all this stuff. So actuarial data is now used to price business. That's what carriers use to say, okay, this is what we're going to charge you for your premium based on your profile. You can go through all that. You can go through 5 different actuaries to get to the top of the chain. And an actuary can say yes or no, or this, you're in this risk profile, you're in this risk profile. But no matter what, you will always get to a decision maker who's a human being, that if he has trust and faith that you've done your due diligence and you are going to do your best to be successful, that decision maker will make the call of whether or not to write you a policy on whether or not he believes in you. All the all the actuarial data aside, that tells me technology is great to a certain point to make a certain level of decisions. It can help filter out a lot of the stuff. Um, but when it's all said and done, it still comes down to one person making a decision about whether or not they're going to do business with another person.
Do you think, let's talk about content. You guys are the face behind this product. Okay. And as an outsider would say, I agree with you. And I think that's the same here. Talk to me about content. Have you look around here? I see a lot of people complimenting Meritus and the work you guys are doing, but I do not see a lot of other content production happening. Are you guys on the cutting edge, bleeding edge, or is this never gonna pick up?
We're absolutely early adopters in video content for our space, and the truth of the matter is we're the only ones at this conference doing any video content. However, even while we were doing this, I saw one of our sponsors come by and take a picture of our podcast setup. So he's probably thinking about setting something up for himself. He should be. The reality of it is, the more that you can give to your audience, and the more that you can share your story and the problems that we're solving for the clients that we're privileged to work with, it creates awareness. And LinkedIn has just been such a wonderful platform for us to get the message out. You know, when we started our video content journey, we were never having conversations about the implications of the business that we can get out of it. Obviously, we knew in the back of the mind that that would be part of the mission, or an end result of doing a good job of sharing and caring and giving as much information and knowledge away. And then you give enough, you get back. And so that's kind of the mission that we're on right now. We really want to empower the staffing world with all the information that we can have. Adam's really new to our team. We're so excited to have him. As you can tell, he's got just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to insurance. The fact that he had his own staffing company, I mean, you can't get any better than that. You know, Paul, our CEO, has talked about his journey of starting in the staffing world. His dad owned a staffing company. He owned a staffing company, funded that staffing company the whole way through using invoice factoring, accounts receivable finance, payroll funding. They're all the same thing. Just whichever way you want to describe it. And so we have a passion, or our team has a passion that's really separates us from a lot of the competition, because they've lived it, they've experienced it, and they have a deeper understanding at a visceral level that you just can't get unless you've actually done it.
Sounds like a pretty powerful tool you guys should consider adding to your tech stack is a podcast in a box along with everything else, so they can get out and tell everybody about the openings they have, about the possibilities, the partnerships.
Who
I think it'd
knows?
be awesome.
I mean, this is, we have, I think, 3 more trade shows scheduled this year,
Yeah.
and this will absolutely be a part of each and every one of them.
Yeah.
And to go along with Larry's point, this is just a way to showcase who we are as people.
Yeah.
It's not always product driven. It's not always, look, fun with Meritus, and this is what you're gonna get. It's like, no, this is what you're gonna get when you work with people like us. Hopefully it's a good impression, and hopefully it's a collaborative impression where we just love to give insight and we love to learn. And if you feel good about seeing us do this, then our hope is that you'll trust us, and have a comfort level with us so that we can see what we can do to help your business.
I love that, Adam. You know, there's a saying that I've really held close to my heart ever since I first heard it. And the saying is this: no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Hey, that's a great one.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, really, that's our mission. We want everyone, our LinkedIn audience, anyone who, comes across our content, we really want to make sure they know that we really care about our audience very much, and their success is our success. And that makes for an awesome partnership. But there's also lots of players in our space and lots of great people that provide the services that we do. So if we give you enough information to empower you to make a good decision, and you're working with one of our competitors, we're super excited about that too.
I kicked Steve out because I wanted to ask you some questions about how you educate folks who are, because part of this is education, right? What you guys do, when to approach you, when it's a good fit, what makes a great fit. Um, when you're courting a new client, or when someone comes up to ask you about payroll funding, what does that education process look like? How much are you kind of teaching them about this business and how it works?
Yeah.
And how much I mean, what's the length of time that it takes to kind of help someone understand fully their the opportunities that are in front of them?
I talk to new business owners all the time, and I really, really, really try to stick to the KISS method. I just try to keep it smartly simple, and I use very basic examples. So when I'm explaining to a business owner how our services work, I break it down to the simple $100 invoice story. And I'm not going to bore my audience with it, but I keep it very, very simple so they can understand the process of exactly how it works. And then usually, I mean, I have really had yet to have a conversation with the business owner after I gave them my little illustration where they're like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." Now they may have some concerns about what's the difference between this and a bank loan and why would I choose this over that. And those are really simple answers that we can give them. And like I said, if you keep it simple, our product is not overly complicated. We're basically buying a company's invoices at a discount and bridging that gap in their revenue cycle so they don't have to worry about whether there's money in the bank to make all their operating expenses paid on time. For staffing agencies, it's typically always going to come down to payroll. That's why we call it payroll funding. But at the end of the day, the simpler that we can keep our product, which it is simple, there's not a lot of moving parts, the easier it is for our potential client to see the value in what we're trying to offer them. And once it makes sense in their head, it's pretty easy for them to make a decision if it's right for them or not.
I'll echo that. I kind of tend to operate with a sense from a sales perspective and an education. Like, I need to at least try to be able to explain this product to a 5-year-old. Um, if I can do that, like, okay, our product is easy to understand, or at least it's simple to understand. We have it structured really well to where, we know how to present that.
Yep.
If there's too many follow-up questions and, well, what about then I didn't do a good enough job with my
Right.
original. But what we do all the time is, we've come across companies where they say, well, look, that's what I thought about my previous lending partner. But then I got my first kind of accounting after the first month, and there's all these fees in there that I have no idea what they are. I have no idea what to make of them. I don't even know if they're a set percentage or if they're variable. So that's where we'll get a little bit more granular. Ours is a very simple pricing model, but we can help consults and say, like, if you want us to look at that, we can kind of explain what some of these costs are and how you could plan accordingly so that you know what your actual burden is at the end of each month.
Mm.
We can help you with that. But with ours, what you see is what you get. It's going to be very simple to read, and you're not going to have any surprises. Nobody in this business likes surprises.
What does it mean to partner with Meritus? Like, what does that look like? Because there's a lot of people like, hey, I'd like to partner with them.
Yeah.
So if someone's curious, well, how do they?
So it's kind of two sides. One is kind of low hanging fruit, I guess you would call it, where there's these opportunities for referral partnerships. Creating new channel partners, meaning that a company across
Across the
a company across the way from us has a service that they provide to staffing companies that, what would integrate really well with what we do, and it doesn't compete against each other. So odds are one of their prospects is also going to have a need for what we provide. So, if we can set up referral partnerships where it's mutually beneficial and ultimately beneficial to the client because they're kind of keeping it within the family, that's a great kind of no-brainer example of a strategic partnership. As we get a little bit deeper and as we're building new products and new programs, then the need for strategic partnerships, it has to be more well thought out and planned out and it's more sophisticated. Meaning, let's say in the staffing company's toolbox, they need a really good ATS system, which is an applicant tracking software. They need a really good recruiting tool. They need a good payroll system. They need a good, tax accountability system to make sure that they're compliant with reporting the proper taxes. They obviously need a good funding partner. And then they need an insurance partner that helps protect all their business from the unknown liabilities and risks that are out there.
Mm.
So from us, where we're kind of in the middle, we're one of the first calls that um, an entrepreneur makes when they're thinking about opening up their own staffing company. It's okay, where are we going to get the money? So we get that call. Now, if all of a sudden we're starting to ask the right questions, like, well, who are you partnered with for payroll? Who are you partnered with for your workers' comp insurance? We have those strategic partnerships already in place where it's creates seamless flow of operation. It gets them everything they need without them having to go out and shop 20 different places. And then ultimately, they'll be able to fulfill all those key functions to operate their business within one middleware environment that Meritus is going to be able to offer. So, 10 different vendors maybe, but all in one ecosystem, all working together. We've planned it out behind the scenes so that it's very limited impact to the actual end user customer or staffing client to where they can just rock and roll.
And that's what it's all about.
What is one thing, whether it's like a keynote or a conversation over lunch or maybe in the elevator, what's one thing that's been a takeaway or something you're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. Or on day two, what has anything piqued your interest or made you go, I hadn't thought about that way?
Well, for me, I mean, this is my third year really attending at events and kind of familiarizing myself with all of the sponsors that come to the events, and I'm seeing a lot of the same faces coming to these, and so I'm pretty familiar with all the different services that are around now, and I'm watching a lot of new AI platforms that are coming up, and things are kind of transforming before my very eyes. But I've been so hyper focused on when I come to a conference, I'm very hyper focused on making new relationships, connecting with as many people that I can. I don't get to spend a lot of time in actually any of the conferences, unfortunately, because I'm very busy just doing what I need to do while I'm here. And now that we have live podcasts and live streams happening on a regular basis, it keeps me very, very focused on what we're trying to accomplish here, which is brand awareness, helping all of the attendees understand why we're here and the passion that we have to support their growth.
Yeah, and I'll say I have been able to get into some of the keynotes and workshops. Um, Obviously, like AI has been dominating a lot of the content. Um, I'm not going to comment on something that I don't know all the facts about yet, and I don't think anybody knows the facts yet because it's fluid. So, but that does seem to be the buzz phrase. Um, the one thing I will say, and I'm a positive person. I want to be optimistic. Glass is always half full, and if it's not, then I'm just gonna pretend it is, anyways. Um,
I'm the same way.
um, there is a lot. The consensus is that we are on the brink of a recession. Um, so that's kind of a dose of reality that I've heard from every walk. From C suites to the people at SIA. Um, you know, how prevalent it's going to be or how long, if it's going to be geographic, that's unknown, but it does seem like we need to be prepared for a bit of a recession. So that's the first time, we've been on such a fast track in staffing industry for years and years and years. I mean, ever since coming out of the pandemic, it's just been full steam ahead. So to get a few months of, downward projections, it's like, oh, wait a second. Oh no. Like, do I need to sell my house? But in reality, we're still above, pre-pandemic levels. So I think the industry is good. Staffing is in this unique space to be very flexible. In other words, you're not so tied to one specific manufacturing tool that if that one manufacturing tool becomes unnecessary, your business is going to shut down. No, staffing is agile. You can move to different industries wherever the needs are at that time. So I have a lot of faith in staffing industry and kind of a slow climb back up. But that's been enlightening to hear, and you don't always hear the
Mhm.
truth. Sometimes it's sugar coated. So the fact that everyone's kind of being honest about, look, this does look like the start of a recession. I think it's good. Not, being able to take action starts with having the knowledge.
Yep.
So that's been interesting.
Awareness is key.
Yeah.
We definitely can't have our heads in the sand.
I mean, not that any of us have a crystal ball. If we did, we'd all be rich.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where do you see opportunity? If someone said to you, like, I think I'm going to go for it. I know it's tough times.
The one thing I'll say about, the downturns in the economy historically, whether it's real estate, whether it's, uh, subprime loans, whatever, the downturn and the tough times, it really does filter out a lot of the players that came into the space kind of hot and heavy, didn't really have enough knowledge, definitely didn't have staying power, and just kind of came in because they thought, oh, this is going to make me $1 million. They're the first ones to leave. And really what it does is the remaining companies that have, figured out a way to tighten their belts and sharpen their pencils and say, okay, we're gonna make some changes, but we're gonna get through this. We're gonna find there is like, to your point, anytime there's a down in the economy, one sector of it is up somewhere. It creates opportunities somewhere. So we're gonna shift. We're gonna go after that. Um, we're gonna go after medical device manufacturing, whatever it is. Um, if where there's a will, there's a way. But the good thing is it does filter out a lot of the, companies that really weren't in it for the right reasons. And what's left is the cream of the crop.
Like that. Anything you'd add to that, Larry?
Well, it's interesting because he said cream of the crop, and I was going to say the cream rises to the top. So we're in simpatico here.
Simpatico.
One question you always get asked that you're like, okay, I'm just going to say this now for the world, like something that people ask you all the time, and you're like, okay, here it is.
I mean, why staffing? I get that a lot. I just think because, staffing is this gigantic industry. It's this gigantic economic vehicle that pushes the economy forward that a lot of people don't think about. Um,
Mm.
you might go to your Kaiser hospital and you get worked on by 3 different doctors and 10 different nurses, and you have an ambulance that brings you there and they're saving your life. You just assume these are Kaiser doctors. These are Kaiser. Odds are they work for a staffing company. And there's a staffing company that has been vetting those people, helping to get them trained and credentialed so that they can go save lives at that Kaiser hospital facility. Staffing is in everything, whether you know it or not. Uh, and because of that, it just it keeps you engaged. If you get bored because you're bored on, like, man, we just do too many third-party logistics and I'm tired of seeing how they fold clothes and put them in bags. Hey, go next door. That your next client, they build the plastic pieces to manufacture artificial hearts, and they need 7 people to help with, refining, whatever it is. That is what staffing provides. It's like you will never get bored. And that's what's always kept me, like, energized about staffing, is because I love learning, and you get to learn these microcosms of, like, all these different sectors of industry that make this country run and make other countries run, and it's just really cool.
Mm. Well, you just gave me a whole new found appreciation for the staffing industry, Adam. I just love the people.
Hey,
You got me thinking, man. It's pretty powerful.
yours is more simple and more profound. You know,
If I get asked what I do, I'm either going to say I'm in finance or I'm in sales. I keep it super simple. I tried to explain invoice factoring a few times in the past, or go beyond just finance, and like, huh? So I just keep it simple because technically I'm in sales and I'm in finance. I get to help people bridge the gap in their cash flow requirements. It's a lot of fun. But no, I mean that I don't get asked too many repetitive questions that I have to answer over and over again. Like, I try to keep it simple to avoid that. Oh, an interesting fact about Larry. Um, well, I am a very good spear fisherman.
What?
and I love to free dive. And Paul can he'll tell you, because Paul and I have done a lot of free diving and scuba diving together. And I used to always drive him crazy because we go down and as soon as we get to the bottom, I already have a 20-pound ling cod at the end of my spear. So I really love spear fishing and scuba diving. Anything that has to do with the ocean or the water, I'm all in.
I used to be in a Rage Against the Machine cover band. So yeah, not many people know that. There's very little physical evidence that still remains.
That's cool.
Hey, I still love a good karaoke jam. I still love getting up and performing. So a lot of times I have a serious exterior. Inside is just popcorns and confetti, man. I'm having a party inside.
So Tom Morello, is that where the bass thing came from?
Yeah,
Right, all right.
absolutely.
Hey, I already told everybody yesterday I get stage fright, so I'm probably not going to sing any songs at karaoke. But if I'm in an intimate gathering and I'm around people that I care about and trust, sometimes I can get a song out. But as far as what song I would sing if I didn't have stage fright, that's a hard one. Maybe a Pearl Jam song. I like Eddie Vedder. That would be a good one. That's a great song.